Chapter 4. Anyways, about Louis. I'd been doing a slow mating dance around Louis for weeks. I made a point of saying hello to Louis upon entering Tom Sawyer's and wishing him good night before leaving. I'd brush against the boy, oh so accidentally, on my way to the loo. I wore my most snug-fitting sleeveless t-shirts to accentuate the biceps I'd worked so hard to build. I complimented Louis on the sweetness of his cologne, when I knew he wasn't wearing any. And although Louis never made any advances, or even anything my still fertile imagination could construe as an advance, neither did he ever draw away when I touched him, or fail to return my smile when I lobbed one his way, or in any way discourage what anyone with eyes would see as an ongoing flirtation. Something in the way Louis's pale blue eyes lowered when I smiled in his direction told me it was worth a shot. I decided on the way to the club behind the wheel of my raggedy old VW Beetle. This was the night. I would ask Louis home, and if all went well, fuck him within an inch of his life. It was Friday night, as I've mentioned. The last show was over, and I was circulating. Something I did after every show. It would have pleased my notoriously well-honed sense of the dramatic if I could have simply disappeared after each performance. As the final chord hangs in the smoky nightclub air and dies away, the lights dim to black, and Johnny Ray is gone. Excuse me while I disappear. Very Sinatra. But Sawyer's had no place to disappear to, not so much as a dressing room, and somehow disappearing into the men's john just didn't quite cut it. So instead of disappearing, I circulated, and the audience slurped the suds at the bottom of their beers and gasped incredulously at the sums on their checks. I slipped into a role somewhere between Leotin Prince and Auntie May, working my way from table to table, introducing myself to first-timers, exchanging hugs, and making kiss-kiss with the regulars, my small but neurotically loyal following. Smiling and waving, like Miss Hard-Cider at the Apple Blossom Parade, and tossing amusing bon mots like rose petals to the peasantry. Accepting compliments with an oh-so-modest turn of my head and a simple, sincere, thank you so much. I had it down to a science. I knew, almost instinctively, how much time I could afford to spend at each table so that none of my fan club would disappear into the muggy midsummer night feeling neglected. That Friday night, however, I had been stalled in mid-circulation. I was sitting at one of the front tables. Across from me sat a tall, light brown woman with a big, sloppy afro. She had begun by commenting how unusual it was to see a black man singing rock and roll, and it ended up giving an unsolicited stream of consciousness discourse on the history of the Negro and the rock music idiom. She looked rather like Cynthia Robinson, trumpet player for Sly and the Family Stone. She had a slight cast in her left eye. She had a voice like wet sandpaper. She was boring me to tears. Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, Clyde McPhatter, she listed, gesturing with a smoldering butt end of an unfiltered Camel. Man, she held on to the word man for about 4 counts with a fermata. Man whose cats made rock and roll. Man, those cats was rock and roll. Wait. Man, those cats made rock and roll. Man, those cats was rock and roll. There we go. I made a non-committal noise and pushed myself up from the chair. This babe was throwing off my timing. I had a room full of other people to talk to, at least to say hello to, and I had to grab that blonde before he left. From the corner of my eye, I could see Louis on the opposite side of the club, clearing tables. Excuse me, I attempted to make a reasonable, graceful exit, but the woman was having none of it. She pointed at me with what was left of her cigarette. Oh, man, oh, my soul, she suddenly exclaimed. Beg pardon? Oh, my soul, she insisted. You know, Lil Richard. Yes, I said. Yes, of course. I was beginning to wonder if the lady was on something strong. Man, she really leaned on that word. Tutti frutti, ready teddy, rip it up. She was listening again. Listing again. So I thought, fuck this noise. Excuse me? Excuse me. Excuse me, I said with some finality, having decided to move on to the next table before she got through Little Richard's greatest hits in their entirety. The woman was still talking. Long, tall Sally, good golly, Miss Molly, when I turned abruptly away, bumping smack into Snooky.